Hey, dear ones. I'm laughing because we've just started this wonderful session in German, and then Nadja suddenly reminded us, "Hey guys, we're doing this in English." So here we are again, dear Nadja, dear Helmut. It's so fantastic to have you here in this Parallax Hub, which is a new space for me. Also, I feel really honored and grateful to Andrew Sweeney and Tom Mark for welcoming this work to happen here. This series is called Selves to Non-Self series, and it's a new series I'm hosting with people and humans, artists, musicians, psychologists, nerds and weirdos who are on the edge of exploring what is self and what is non-self. And you two being two outstanding musicians who I value since a very long time. I think the first times I came across you was in the integral scene. The last recent one was up here in a vineyard where you played a beautiful live concert, and I finally got to hear it live and meet you. And after a beautiful walk in the forest nearby our house, as you live really close, which is great, coming from Berlin to this southern Black Forest, small land kind of farm life. I feel more than thrilled, that not just you're so close now, but that we get closer by exploring topics which we equally share. And that is the one of selves, identification, narratives of archetypes, collective, non-self, and the exploration of such as a process. Me coming from voice dialogue, but funnily enough, hearing you also have a long history with voice dialogue, and also the music has been composed and proposed with lots of elements of such. So welcome to this roughly a short hour today, and then to the ongoing course starting in December, where we will really go in depth with these topics. Thank you for being a part. And maybe a few words from you, Nadja, first, and then you, Helmut. Just how do you feel being here, and what is in your heart for tonight?
Yeah, thank you, Cordula. It's pretty amazing thinking how weird and unusual it is that we are meeting here in this beautiful area, and you've known us, and we've kind of known us, but not really for such a long time. I mean, when we started Klartraum, I think it was, when was it, 2006 or something, and we were, as you said, in this integral scene in Berlin. So somehow we were connected, and it's quite amazing that we meet you and you know our music, and we meet at a live concert, and we are talking about voice dialogue. I mean, how unusual is that? So, and I told you that voice dialogue is probably one of the most amazing tools for us, and we've been practicing it for a very, very long time because it's so powerful, and so it just works if you really do it, and you can go into the depth like with nothing else before. It's such a powerful tool, and I can't wait to share this with some people who are interested.
Yeah. Okay. For me, it's really astonishing to meet you here in the Black Forest, Cordula, and I got very excited as I saw voice dialogue something. And then this was already so exciting because I always wished that I have a person to reflect on the experiences that Nadja and I had in this, because we used it really for years and still continuing with it, maybe a little bit different as before, but we continue with that. And so there are really interesting parts for me that I'm really keen on to explore. Yeah.
Super. So maybe I also would just love, apart from voice dialogue, to just let the people know a little bit about you as musicians and artists, and your projects are so rich and many, so I wouldn't know where to start. So maybe we can, let's talk about now. I mean, being in the now, you have been more quiet than in some time back recently. I'm sure there's reasons for it, but you are very active on digital platforms and also as producers, right?
Yeah, so with Klartraum, we started in 2006. As Nadja already said, we were then invited to several clubs in Berlin, for example, Tresor, World Feminist Club, and all the other clubs in Berlin. And then at a certain time, it started to even grow outside of Berlin. So we played worldwide, for example, in Australia. We played in Fabric, that's also a world famous club in London. We played in USA on Lightning in a Bottle festival in
Burning Man.
You're right, Burning Man and Lebanon in Beirut. And we played, Nadja, what did I forget? Did I forget something?
Oh, we played many venues and clubs around the world, I would say.
India.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and at a certain time, we concentrated more on Karma music. We named this Karma Music Liquid versions because we usually record in one flow where we have two synchronized workstations. Nadja has a complete own studio. I have my studio, and we sync in real time together. And then we record it, and usually it's good enough. We do then some little tweaks and improvements, maybe cuts, but that's it already. So you usually get with real flow. And with the meditation music, Nadja, maybe you can tell a little bit about your approach to meditation music.
Yes, around 2009 or something, I started creating ambient drones with binaural beat entrainment. And I did this in order to calm my own nervous system and to because I found out how amazing it worked on my own nervous system, because back then I wasn't able to meditate because I was way too excited inside of my nervous system, so I couldn't bear sitting in silence. I was always fidgeting and always hyper alert due to trauma. I mean, it was trauma related, and I got stuck in trauma loops 24/7. And I somehow found out about the calming effect of, I mean, I knew about the effect of music on my nervous system already, but I found out about the calming effect of binaural beats and ambient music. So I started creating these ambient drones and have been using them on a daily basis since then. I mean, 2009, 10, around that. And they are around, sometimes I would say 20-minute long pieces that take your brain waves from the day activity down into alpha, theta, delta. Sometimes it depends, and you listen to them on your headphones. I always use them with a blindfold because it enhances the effect. And no matter how exhausted or how bad I feel when I do it and I come out of it the other end, I'm a completely new person, and it's really like a switch. Yeah. So for me, they have been, apart from the voice dialogue, this has been the most life-changing music
And I guess in our course, we will also make some or have some experience. We're still working on how we're going to do it digitally, but so have the listeners or the people in this hub having this experience or even co-creating it. We will see how this is all going to work out. But Nadja, I also have heard from you that then you met someone I really deeply value and I think is here in Parallax and in the integral world also really well known. It's John Dupuy.
Oh, yes.
So how did that come together?
So, okay, that's a story for itself. So I was at an integral meeting in 2009 or 8. I really don't remember, but he was he was teaching about his approach using binaural beats for healing addicts. So he went into the desert with with like heroin, cocaine, crack. Really, we know also some of these people and he took them into the desert. He did then binaural beats, yoga, meditation, the whole integral approach of all these quadrants. And then in the end, he had a much better healing factor as other treatment of addiction. And today, Nadja, you can maybe tell what he's doing today.
Yeah, and at that time we were living in Berlin, and Helmut, on the phone he told me about who he saw, who he experienced at this festival. What was it? Yeah, and he told me about John Dupuy, and I said to him, I want this guy. I want this guy. Get him. I don't care, but I want this guy. And suddenly, John Dupuy visited us in Berlin. Was it right after this?
Yeah.
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 And
so he said, yeah, I want to. He said, I want to go to Berlin anyway. So yeah, I stay at your place. So Nadja gave up her room and he stayed there. I think even for a long time. I mean, 1 week or something. So it was not so short.
Even more. Yeah, it was amazing because I mean we had such a connection right away, and we were laughing, weeping, going through different processes together, and it was really amazing. And then I also started working with their company, I Awake Technologies. And yeah, we've known him for such a long time now, and he's a very good friend.
And Nadja,
he also wrote Integral Recovery.
A wonderful book.
Yeah, a wonderful book. Yeah.
And Nadja released like, how many meditations is it through I Awake now? 20 or something? I don't know. It's really a lot. Yeah.
I have to check with Tom if that book is already translated at Phänomen, but it would be really a great book to translate in German if it's not yet. So let's see.
Yeah, it is. Definitely.
So we got these friends, you know, and this network in a way, spiderweb, I would say, where I can feel with you both, even right now in this space here, it's about healing, and it's about an honest approach to healing. As far as we've talked so far, we're very aware about bypassing. We're very aware about the complexity it holds to do a spiritual journey right from the root. And what I love is when it's not just in psychology, but when art is in place, or the body, or the somatic, or nature. Because this is, for me, having worked with voice dialogue in the very classical sense, as having studied it as my prime profession, actually, with 19, doing a real proper 4 to 5 year training venture. I had to go everywhere in the world to get my accreditations or whatever, you know, my experiences. There's no accreditation, but for my own inner self. But having done a 2-year course properly at the naturopath school in Munich, in part of my naturopath studies was voice dialogue. And what I loved from the very first day onwards was that in my course, bioenergetics was equally part of the training. So it was bioenergetics and voice dialogue. Later on, at many of the places I've been, there was art, which was then the second surprise. There's art camps, there's art ateliers, there's art process, especially the Dutch people were fantastic with that. And then coming to the Swedish voice dialogue people, they did all the shaman stuff, up in the woods and sweat lodge and pretty much us running around naked for a week. So all different people in the world have, luckily, I guess, especially also, let's say the Dutch, very much doing counseling, coaching to companies, organizational development, self-improvement, health improvement. There is some really fantastic American trainers and teachers who do body dialogue, using voice dialogue for really talking to symptoms and illnesses in the body. But it's a entire world on its own. And meeting you, and that's what I primarily want to talk about today before we in the course can go in real detail, is how is it possible, what you told me before we started this recording, that voice dialogue influenced your first compositions, even by the titles and the energy that it transports. Can you say a little bit how that is to be imagined to happen? Did you go in different selves and then do the music, or vice versa, or what happened?
Yeah, so it's usually in parallel. We do, for example, we stand up, we have the need for doing a voice dialogue session, we try it out. For example, we talk to the pusher.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to know everything, what is about a pusher going on, why is he so important, what is his objective, how does he feel, what does he want, what are his problems, for example. Just to go into details and learn as much as possible about it, and being as neutral as possible about it, just to learn, not to say good or bad about it. And then in the end, for example, on the first album is, I think, a track named Push Yourself, and it's like tied to this one. We were also in America and met there Mark Gaffney, who wrote a book about unique self and unique shadow. And so our concept was, unique self is a voice, unique shadow is a voice, and it's a journey from unique shadow to unique self. And how do you integrate all the parts on the way, for example? So this was behind the first album. Nadja, maybe you can say something about the anagram stuff. Where is this tying into voice dialogue?
Yeah, we also have learned a lot with Stephen Wolinski's questionnaires and books and teachings. And there was one particular book, Beyond the Enneagram. I think this is what you're referring to.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, we've used so many different tools, whatever just suited us, and we combine it, and we really do what's in the questionnaire book. So you go through different voices and parts of yourself, and there's a whole questionnaire lining up to one another. So it's really quite remarkable. I mean, sometimes it feels like Stephen Wolinski is there with you because he knows exactly what question to ask, and it's a book. I mean, it's written down. So he's very particular and very very strong with what he does. So we combine voice dialogue with Wolinski exercises and and whatever comes to our attention, we make a song out of it, just to give it space, because it's inspiring. It's very inspiring, and this whole process has been a very inspiring journey.
I also would love to go in our sessions that are coming. I would love to go into depth there because it's really detailed. And for Stephen Wolinski, everything is an identity. Even consciousness is an identity. Or even love is an identity. So there are several layers of identities that you can identify with, and where you can say, I am that identity. And he tries to, let's say, show you that you're more as all these identities. And with that, your perspective can change because you're freed up of this hardened approach of what am I. Mm-hmm. So his main quest always was not to heal. He wanted to know who am I, and in the deepest depth. And with that, he also healed, interestingly. But his main approach was not to heal people, even if he was supervisor of the supervisors of psychologists in California. So he was in this, you always have this tree of supervisors, and he was like really up there. But he's not very keen with psychotherapy at all. Still, he uses the vehicle very often. So, and that's amazing. And it is really eye-opening. We used it also in one of our, I can talk 2 hours now. So Cordula, please, I don't want to take too much room here.
I'm glad we're going to have this room, and I really look forward also to do these exercises together. And please also, anyone listening that coming to our course, you can also bring in topics that you want to explore. But Helmut, I think if I just go back 2 or 3 minutes, you said to find out who I am. For me, having come to voice dialogue, it was like a relief in a way that I recognized, all that I am not. So that to know who I am, it was like I was thinking before I was walking in the forest and thought, what would I like to share with you? And I'm interested if you had similar experiences. But when I was a child, I felt so restricted by my narrative of living in this family. I remember looking at them at the dinner table saying to myself, do I have to be with them now every day? Is that it? They were wonderful and still are. I love my family tremendously. But I asked them for permission if I could eat somewhere else sometimes. So they gave me the chance. I could eat in, various places in the house during dinner time. And for me, looking back to these experiences, I just felt, how can I now have to be so restrictedly defined by being Swiss, by having these neighbor friends, by speaking a certain language and doing things the way so I was like observing, like a frantic, the neighbors, all these details of what people would do, particularly every day in my environment. And I just suffered from it. It's not needless to say that kindergarten and school system was horror for me until I finally could go to the Waldorf school, the Steiner school, and got some soul breathing. But so when I came to voice dialogue, really, for me, the first thing was, what a relief that finally someone is explaining to me that I am not, but I am many. And yet there is something who makes that experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Nadja, do you want to say something? Or
that's what the teaching of Stephen Wolinski is all about. In order to find out who you are, you first have to find out who or what you are not. And peeling back the layers of identity structures. That's what he's always referring to. And I find it very astounding that you had these thoughts and you remember them so vividly. It's really astounding to me. Wow.
Yeah, and there are actually two approaches with this. You said not. That's the typical Advaita Vedanta way. That's also Stephen Wolinski's part, but he also says there's also a tantric way. I'm everything, I'm everything, I'm everything, I'm everything. Give it to me. I want this experience. I want to learn how pain feels. I want to learn how this feels. There's also this other way to go into everything. That's also very interesting. But I can understand first to find out, okay, I'm not this shit, or I'm not this strange thoughts, or whatever is going on, or the critic, or whatever is going on, is really a relief. I can just say, yeah, absolute the same experience.
Yeah, and even to have the language and the understanding that there are different parts within you. I mean, I had to learn this first. This didn't come to me like this. I didn't learn this from home. I didn't learn how to talk about feelings, or that there are different feelings. I mean, okay, you had anger and sadness maybe, and happiness, but that was it. There was nothing else to talk about, or not to talk about at all. So this was like a whole process to develop the understanding, and not only the understanding, but the feeling. Like this is the important part, to feel it in your body, the changes that happen when you switch voices, or you switch to a different state, from one state to another state, and to differentiate, and to be very precise, and to hear what these I call it individuals can tell you about you, or the world, or whatever. It's remarkable. So this is the huge gift for me about this whole process.
So Helmut, you said you had so many questions, and I said at the beginning, let's save some for later, but I don't want to over-dominate this by moderating the talk. So if you do have questions which are really burning, let's explore them.
Yeah, okay. One interesting part of me is always how to know that this works, or that it's true. Because sometimes if you do it one-on-one, you leave this session that was amazing. Yeah, it felt energetically strong. You had really strong informations. You had a relief or let go of something. Still, you leave then, go, yeah, was it just a mind game? Was it real? Is there something really happening? Or how do I find out that something is really happening? So I'm wondering, how do you find out that something worked or not?
I have a really good example for that. I had this really strange leg pain, which I have occasionally. You will possibly experience it in the next months or years in phases. And I'm quite aware that this type of pain, because it's quite unexplainable, must have some energetic reason, right? So usually it's something I'm processing from external. But this time now, the last weeks, it was so bad, and I could not trace what the origin is. I was talking to Nadja also, but if it's supplements I should take, or treatment, or I've done all the osteopathic and blah, blah thing. So I did a session, a voice dialogue session 2 nights ago, about just inviting who or whatever can tell me or reveal itself as who or what it is that it wants to have attention in form of severe pain. And in this case, which is I cannot say it's true, but I can say it was the energy body of my mother-in-law who had died in March, and in whose shoes I'm walking, because I'm living in her house and I'm driving her car and I'm taking care of her husband and so on. So it must have created a systemic overlap between her and me. And so now I could say I talked to the ghost or I talked to the dead who was in the room, but maybe it was also inner self. I don't know. But definitely it was that I talked to my leg about pain, pain. Tell me more about this. And so I had this wonderful session with various things coming up. It was very much about the systemic between her and I, which is quite remarkable because when she died so suddenly, I had a severe panic attack that night, feeling this whole energy was swooping over me, more or less knowing now she is gone. So I'm the placeholder. I'm the next in line, right? So I was aware this is going to be a tough lesson for me to learn how to negotiate all that. But now, is it true or not? So she, or that entity, or that self, and the complexity of missing words for that, asked me if I would allow it, her, that self or mother-in-law, to now take that of the energy that I carried for her back to her. And it was important that I gave permission, like saying yes or no. So I really thought about it before I just said yes. And I went to bed and I woke up and it was gone. So is it true or not? I said to my partner, maybe it was a self-healing in an imaginary journey my brain produced, and then it was a good story. But if things like that happen, I even wonder, is it again a new self that wants to not just entrust that magic happens or good things happen? So now my rationalist comes in and questions it.
Yes.
But the truth of it, so where does I'm a bit mean now, but where does the question come from, possibly?
Yeah, so first of all, what I find more easy is if it's with bigger groups. So it's good that we do the sessions, for example, because I also joined Genpo Roshi in his big mind approach in several sessions, also in Netherlands and wherever. And I was also on Ameland with this big Sangha there. And so I had a lot of learnings, and that's quite easy because if he talks then to 500 people, and let's talk to the controller. And let's take something simple. Yeah? Let's talk to the controller. And when you have all these answers from different people, then you know that something is going on. And these informations are really profound. And even if you then go to, let's say, big mind or really huge voices like consciousness or something, and then you hear the answers where they are like pure Zen talk in a way, yeah, that from normal people, no one was trained to give these answers or did now Cohen study for 10 years or something. So they really came from out of the selves that were like, and this is something where I say, okay, this feels so real. I cannot deny it. And especially if there are, let's say, suppressed voices. Then the energy gets really, you feel like the chaos in the whole room then.
Yeah.
That's normally inside a person, the chaos, if you have like suppressed voices or something. You feel then in the room, and that's really, especially if it's collective suppressed. So that's the part that I find that's a strong marker for me that this really works. But where I'm coming from is that you said you worked also with horses. And that I find really strong because you cannot betray them.
Yeah, but going back to the group thing, there's another really nice story. When I did one of my voice dialogue ongoing courses, was in Amsterdam with Helen Sidra, Hal, Hal Stone was very strong on energetics. He was also doing martial arts and stuff like that. And that one specific clinic that was there was a voice dialogue advanced training with mostly trainers there, was a lot about dream work. Hal really loved that, and the dream, and then instinctual energy. So it was primarily, I think I was in that course. We had different split up groups, but I think the course I was in was run by Hal, and it was about instinctual energies. And then, of course, we went through the dream process. Usually when you were around someone like Hal or Robert Stambolyev, who were like really advanced teachers in that work or in that process, you would have amazing dream process going on, just being around them in the groups, And so he did two things was amazing. He always said in the lunch breaks or so, go out, Amsterdam, and we were downtown, go out and experience what we just did in the group out in the street, and come back and tell us, apply the different energies and go in contact with the people there, and go in kind of a little bit of a dark place and play with these different energies and see how people react in the streets energetically. And so in that specific course, the instinctual energies so much held I think real gift to me was that even if it was Satan sitting on the throne asking you to worship him, there was still always, if you really did the voice dialogue work profoundly, a gift in it, as something telling you, I am also a self that needs to be integrated and that has a place in your life. So I had two dreams there. I won't go into detail, but at the end of these dreams, I did share them with the whole group, which I think was important because, as you say, then you have more, I had a similar dream, or I know that dream figure also. And at the end of that week, I had a dream of a really dark, fearful man, someone who I would not have enjoyed meeting at 2:00 in the morning in Amsterdam alone in the street, approaching me in a dream and opening his hands and giving me a ring, a beautiful ring, as a present. And when I told Hal or the group the next morning about this dream, he said, okay, you integrated one shadow, right? So the thing that at the beginning of the week was all dreadful to me or fearful had become, during the work of several days in the group work and having a great teacher there, to having the gift of being part of me, coming home to me. And no longer since then, I was fearful of that external energy. It had become part of within me. So I think that's also a really good way, if it's true or not, is it changed. The more you integrate selves, which we would normally deny or suppress or disown, the more they become placeful within us, the more we have space in the external world not to judge, not to opinionate, not to shield off, but to at least dance with the energy, right? So that is to me the real gift, that when you do it for yourself as a meditative practice, it's wonderful, but when it enriches relationship to the children, to the parents, to the neighbors, to things which are foreign to you or fearful, then that moment of gift can happen, that it becomes a present, something that was before scary or denieful can become this beautiful flower that enriches you. So that to me is that path I love so much about the work. And then also sometimes, honestly, I just wanted to have peace of it. There was always a year, or sometimes 2 years, I just said, no more voice dialogue work. I just want to be who I am right now, that defined person I need to be. I'm a mother or whatever I need to get done. And then the horses came in, and that is a different story. We will have to go into that next time. But it's not just the horses. It could be how should I say, anything can serve as a transmitter of energetic, maybe help me, maybe you find the right words. The horses are just very pure in that, because they're very in the moment and non-judgmental and honest in the energy. But I
Yep.
guess if a kindergarten could be the same, right? Or a company you're working in.
Sure, I agree. The challenge is always it's easy with simple identities that are not suppressed or that are really straightforward. But sometimes it's also hard because sometimes we think we know what projection is, for example, and then we put it on a voice on top of it. We do not work with the real experience of projection. We work with the image of the voice.
Yeah.
And this is also the danger. And I think horses, that's why I say you cannot betray. They feel if you go into a certain energy or not. And this is for me the very interesting part, because what I'm coming from is, for example, I talked with many people about their spiritual voice or spirituality. What is spirituality really? And the truth was 90% of the people were not even in nearest contact of spirituality. They worked on a concept like being enlightened, being this, being having white clothes, always laughing, always being happy, whatever concept. But it was never the true spiritual voice, you know? So where I'm coming from, because I find it important. Otherwise, it can be also a manipulative thing. And it needs to be really clean in a way.
Yeah. It's something, a predicament. When I was training people in voice dialogue, I always said, if you give a session, the most important part is that you don't know. Because if you think you know, because you're voice dialogue facilitator, and I'm looking at Nadja now, and I kind of want to suggest to her the inner critic that might be on the left side of her head trying to talk to her if she's looking good enough right now or whatsoever. No, I'm joking. No, but the selves are so sensitive to the word, as you say, manipulation. And I experienced it. I mean, I don't know how many sessions I got from people all over the world, and some of the best trainers. And still, sometimes I said, "You fucking manipulating me. Stop telling me what my critic is like before you have even asked him truthfully, because you know it already, because you talked to 2,000 critics. Yeah, they are similar, but my critic he shrinks back. You know, you could feel he didn't open up, really showing and revealing its innocence, because there was already as you say,
Yes.
a concept on it. Or the inner child, you know, like in the 70s, 80s, when that came so in fashion, all this inner child work. And then the concept was very much for healing, you have to be in touch with your inner child, and you have to do the trauma work and embrace the inner child and find a good parent, which I think is all really beautiful, but it's just one part of the story. And it's also, a lot of people walk around thinking that is voice dialogue. That's all of it, you know? And it's a part of it. It's a part of the journey. But some people don't maybe have to, maybe some people don't need to know about their trauma.
Maybe.
You know, it's a suggestive spiritual thing. If you don't do your trauma work, you will not do your shadow work. I don't know. This is all these types of ideas going around. What I think I told you that when we went walking in the forest, what I found a statement of truth was when I had groups, and that was always really great, retreats where a lot of people came together working with each other on selves, you know, exploring, like we will do hopefully with the group when we do the course. There was sometimes a moment of ecstasy. I could see this almost orgastic, you know, like laughter between two, but then the other two. And it took me a while to understand what's going on. until I realized, wow, it's just when they're in connection with the wholeness and the nothingness of all, and the space was just, it's not Helmut and me or Nadja and Helmut, but the three of us. And it's so relieving when it's just the space is flux, it's fluent, and whatever is there can just vibrate. And that was the magic to me, these moments when people then would go home after retreat with that memory of that, of that possibility of being like that in the world.
Yeah.
Not as something that is easy.
Suddenly everything is exciting in this space. When you get there, everything is exciting and real and without effort. I call it my easy state. It's when everything is fluent and in flow and just real. It feels so real and rich.
And what is it, Nadja, that you get in that state? Do you know?
It's like all these restrictions I usually don't feel, that are pulling me to this side and that side, and you cannot say that. It's not conscious. There are so many layers that are unconscious, and suddenly there's a path through them. It's like a tunnel, like a wormhole, or I don't know what it is, but suddenly all these layers disappear, and there's my essence or something, I would call it, or my true nature connected to another true nature, and there's no restrictions. And it's a very different state. We call it the Zehnerraum in German, like it's a 10 out of 10 connected feeling. And once you're there, everything below 10 feels like pain. Yeah. And we rarely get there in the usual connection, if you want to call it connection.
If I get it right, what you're saying, it's the same, right? When you walk through the forest and you can do it 10 times and it's a nice walk and you've seen things. And then sometimes it's that you and the forest are in that interconnection and everything is just one, and you don't gaze at the forest anymore. You don't notice things, but it speaks to you and you speak to it, right? And I was wondering about that yesterday in this beautiful autumn forest, fog forest, misty forest. I thought, wow, it hasn't spoken to me for a long time in that sense, And then I cannot say why. I cannot force it. But when it happens, you notice it, right? And then it's, I missed that. I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Wolinski is trying to always get to this room. So all his questionnaires, all his books are just leading to this states, and then maybe stages at a certain time. His main goal is always essence first, then the not I am or the I am, and then the not I am, and so on. So he is always trying to get to this essence part, and it's not so easy because, as Nadja said, he's okay. There's an identity. There, for example, if you, sorry to jump in, but if he works with the lovable, not lovable identities, pairs that are interconnected, you have to rip apart, like, not apart, but to remove 30 identities or 50, or it depends on each person, but it's so many identities that are put on this, and each of them has their own drive and interest and not being seen or fears or whatever. So it's not like it's more usual not to experience this easy state as to experience this. And he says at a certain time it's possible that the background, like the easy state, gets foreground, and the voices get background. And then this is a new level, because he always says this, there was this part where he was in the shower, I think his mother died, his dog was ill, and then something other terrible happened, and then said, oh, and then this identity appeared in my consciousness. And he could describe that this now entered his space, something like that. And it was really funny, because for us it's so hard to just get the first glimpses of this space, this spaciousness. Sometimes longer, yes, for sure, but it's usually still a surprise that it's there, and but if the switch happens, it's really wonderful, because I experienced it sometimes. Yes,
it's a reason why I love your music so much, because I mean, we did wonder if we can have some play out, but it's not going to work for the Zoom and the technique. But it's because your music does really, in my opinion, embody that and embrace all this many, and then still there is this one spaciousness in it, of subtleness, that is, I wouldn't say cheerful, but it's more than cheerful, you know, it's hopeful, it's beautiful, it's beyond, transcendent. So, you know, maybe to end this first session, can you say something why you named it Klartraum, that type of music, or lucid flow?
Well, I talk about Lucid Flow. Lucid Flow is our record label. We founded 2009, and we made a brainstorm list that I learned from Vera F. Birkenbiel. She's also a very famous.
She's great. She's one of my husband's favorites.
And she has this, and she calls it ABC lists, where you brainstorm all your ideas. And so we did this, and we picked Lucid Flow as our label. So, and you can talk about Klartraum maybe.
Yeah, first I can add a little bit with Lucid Flow. Lucid flow, if you have normal flows as an artist, you usually are aware of flows, or if you're running, or if you're writing or something, you will sometimes realize that you're in flow. And a lucid flow is that you are aware while you're in flow, you are aware of it. And then you can realize how lesser thoughts there are, how more it's about going through a certain direction, and you're aware of this whole process. This is like something more as just pure flow, let's say it this way. Because pure flow can also be sometimes deceiving. And Klartraum, yeah, it's easy because I did do many out-of-body experiences, or have a lot of them, and also having lucid dreams and clear dreams. And there are also certain levels to it. And at a certain time, we discussed how Nadja, so one of my ideas was to having music in my dream. And just at the day, I just write it down and produce it, or at least have some ideas. Because I had an artist in the beginning of my much older labels that was drawing insanely good pictures, really intense pictures. And I asked him, how do you do that? And he said, yeah, I get aware at night. I have out-of-body experience. I leave my body, and then I draw in my dreams. And then the next day, I just put it on paper. And I thought, that's not true. This is a lie. There's no such a space, because at that time I was not out of body. But he said, go to this web page. At that time, it was like in the beginning of the internet. So there was really some woman wrote down her process to getting into out of body. And she said certain things, and I did it at night. and I had this experience that my body started vibrating like a bee. Zzz, and I had a metallic noise in my ears. And then I said, how is this possible? How is the world lying to me that we have this kind of experiences in our portfolio as a human and no one is talking about it? How is this possible? This is such a lie and a thing that you are denied these experiences that are there for everyone to experience. Yeah. And this was the journey to start. And then I had this goal in mind to, I want to do music. And I talked to Nadja if she had the same experience with clear dreams, and she said yes. And then we decided, okay, great. This is our point where we meet.
Wow. So I will add to the title of this podcast your website. So I think it would be wonderful for anyone having listened so far to go off putting on some of your music from your different streams. You have very many different streams. One can hear you. And yeah, let's just say some few words to what did we say? The 6th of December, we're going to start meeting for a couple of sessions. Really enjoying also what you said, Helmut, as a group. Some people coming together will make it wonderful, because anyone coming to enter this hub for exploration reasons or whatever will add to the energy field that we create. So from my side, closing off this meeting is I primarily look forward to holding this room together with you and your music, or the music that we will maybe separate through whatever we go through. And I look forward for the people bringing in their own. It can be a request for a collective topic we're going to explore, look at. It can be a topic of, can I hear more about, lucid dreams, or learn some techniques? So can we do meditation together, or some voice dialogue sessions even? But it doesn't have to be any of that. It can also just be sharing energy in the realms of being in a room and being many and being non-self, as I think what we share right this moment. So we want to keep it, I guess, also a little bit open for whoever comes will be that which is going to happen, right?
Yes. I think the good thing is that we all have this kind of methods available, and we can jump into whatever direction makes sense, or then go the next, say, okay, we cannot do it in this session because we need to prepare something, but we can then prepare it for the next session and say, hey, yes, we do a full dismantling protocol of the whatever identity. We do a full dismantling protocol of this. So there's, or something else. There's so much to explore. Yes, I think I can contribute a lot to what you said, lucid dreams. We can also contribute, Nadja can a lot contribute with binaural beats and bringing us in a short session to theta or delta or something like that, and then start the session. Or yes, I see there's much possibilities there.
Wonderful. Nadja?
I'm looking forward to exploring and sharing these experiences. Yeah, and I can't wait.
No, I didn't plan this, but it just came to my mind. Whoever's close by and wants to hear you actually live, there's the 9th of November, right? In Lörrachstetten, you're going to play, and an artist will live paint, or you will live play, live create, and she will paint. So we don't know how it's going to work, but it's in Lörrachstetten, Saturday evening, the 9th of November. I'm definitely going to be there. And thank you so much for meeting tonight. We will have all the information up on Parallax for the course and the registration and the details. And for the moment, just thank you for being here in this space at that moment in time and room. And let's hope we record it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Cordula. Same here.